What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Just Jacks Golf Podcast. I'm Mitchell Forbes, your host. We're joined weekly by Sam Keston, COO, over at Four Links to discuss the happenings on tour and obviously give our picks for this week. Sam, Gents Invitational, another big event that didn't disappoint. How much did you watch?
I watched most of it. Especially, I watched all of Sunday and a pretty healthy chunk of Saturday. I was a little disappointed they didn't play in more of the wind on Saturday. You know, I think it did get bad there for about an hour. There was a little stretch there where it was blowing pretty good, and you could see balls moving on the greens. And I get not wanting to play on it like that, but that just lasted a little. I would have liked to have seen him play in that. We
don't really get it from over the pond, Sam, because obviously I guess we're used to playing in more adverse conditions. But the point being, I think, is that if you can't have that same wind for every single player, then it becomes a little bit unfair. I don't think they should have. I don't think the stoppage of play should be the difficulty of the high winds. It should be more about the fair play, because I think a lot of the spectators, a lot of viewers from England were like, what the fuck? Like, why the stop play? It's just a bit of wind. Like, we get it in Scotland all the time. Blah blah blah. We're used to links golf, but the point is that it's not fair if half the field have the high winds all the whole round, and another part of the field just have high winds for 2 holes or something.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, that's like the Open Championship. That's true almost every year. Every year at the Open Championship on Thursday and Friday, there's one side of the draw you wish you were on, And so I think the PGA Tour and professional golfers are used to the idea that they're not all going to play in the same conditions. I mean, even if it has nothing to do with the number of holes you're stuck in it's still like, you can imagine like Augusta that, let's say you play, you're playing front nine when the winds are blowing versus somebody playing the back nine when the winds are blowing. And then the wind dies down when you get to 10. You don't have to play 11 and 12 with gusty wind. But that's just part of the deal. I think it was more the balls blowing off the greens, and like kind of that looks a little circusy. So I get that. But I like when it's hard. I enjoy watching it. It was reasonably Sunday too, but I thought the golf course was a treat.
Riviera just gets more appealing to me every year. I can't believe you were lucky enough to have played that course so many times. It literally let's say 4 or 5 years ago, I knew about the Genesis, of course, and it was a prestigious event, blah blah. But it's only really over the last 3 years where I've really come to understand just how much the fucking players admire it, and some people are even saying it's the best course to play all year. For me, the PGA Championship needs to jump on this shit, man. Come on. Let's play at some better venues. Like, I think it's been another great week to showcase the fact that, a 12 under winning score is brilliant, right? And it doesn't need to be too long. It ate Bryson DeChambeau alive. It's not a course that you can That
was predictable, wasn't it?
Huh?
That was predictable with DeChambeau, wasn't it?
I mean, well, you did predict it, so fair play to you. I guess it is kind of predictable, but at the same time, you're never quite sure what he's going to do. And if you had his short game that he had at Winged Foot, then maybe we'd see a different score. But that course beat him up, and I was so happy to see, not because it was Bryson, but because it rewarded good ball striking. Simple as that.
Yeah, and you had to place the ball off the tee.
Yes.
Like not being able to drive the ball well makes it really, really difficult to score there.
The angles, and for what it's worth, Jordan Spieth, I don't know how he managed to shoot such a good score with the way he was driving the ball. He scrambled extremely well. But I think overall, what a great tournament.
Yeah, it was a blast. I mean, I was a little worried at the 36-hole mark when Sam Burns had a 5-shot lead.
I was never worried.
Yeah, I was like, is this going to be like a runaway from a guy I pretty much don't know? So I was a little concerned about that going in to the weekend, but little by little throughout the course of 2 rounds, and this is kind of like classic Riviera, right? It's not going to be the car crash meltdown you'll see at Augusta National, as a for instance. But Riviera, if you don't have it, if you're not driving it well, you can get away with it for a little while, but it's like It's like blackjack. The house always wins. Like, the odds are against you, and the longer you keep going, the more likely it is to eventually find its way to eating your lunch. And I think that's kind of, especially on the weekend on the back nine, I think that's what happened to Sam Burns. He just started driving the ball poorly, and you can smoke and mirrors your way around doing that for small chunks. But for 36 holes, even for 18 holes, it's gonna be hard to get away with it the whole time. Part of it there is that you have those big eucalyptus trees on both sides, and they're not far from the edges of the fairways. I mean, there's probably, if there's 5-10 yards between the end of the fairway and, the edges of the fairways and the eucalyptus trees, that sounds about right. And so, like, that doesn't, like, rough to my mind doesn't scare these guys at all. Like, unless it's like, hey, it has to be like crazy, ankle deep, like lose your ball rough for these guys. Otherwise, they're all strong enough to muscle it out of there and get it on the green, and they're hitting short enough clubs most of the time but trees are, like it doesn't matter how good your lie is, and it doesn't matter how strong you are. Like, it's a much harder shot if you're in the trees. And so I think,
and how fun was it watching 10 all week? Like, fuck, that's such a good hole. That is such a good hole because it's almost like a crazy golf hole, right? Because players' big main miss is left, because right's not good, and guess what's left? More trees. And there were so many shots throughout the week where players had to get creative, and it was just good fun, good viewing.
Yeah, and I think too that there's a pretty obvious, to my mind, the correct strategy there is obvious. That you want to take a straight line from the back of the 10th green through the front of the 10th green, and picture that line extending outwards as long as you can. You want to be on the far side, on like if you're looking straight up the angle of the green, you want to play your second shot from left of that line.
Yeah, of course.
Even if it's in the trees, like, I never found in the trees to be that bad of a spot. And my argument was always, this whole, like, it's a 4-option 3. It's not a 3. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that there are a ton of people who are that disappointed walking away from 10 making a par. You feel like you lost a shot and a half if you make bogey. Like, you feel like it was a birdie opportunity turned into a bogey. But if you make par, you don't feel, you're not losing a crazy amount to the field by making 4. And so even if you do hit it in the trees, as long as you're not like right up against one, you can kind of pitch something low under the trees and get it on the green somewhere. Where that hole gets you is if you have an awkward second shot and you play it aggressively. That's when mistakes start to compound there. You see, like, guys will hit it in the right bunker, then they'll try to hit the hero bunker shot. They end up in the next bunker. They start going back and forth. Or guys who go long and left and the pin's back right, and instead of chipping it to the middle of the green, they try to go take on that little island, that kind of like the tongue in the back there. And then you start seeing like mistakes compound there. But I think guys who are patient with that hole and recognize that, like, what, if I only play it 1 or 2 under, like, it doesn't matter how short it is. It's a hard golf hole. If I play it 1 or 2 under for the week, that's going to serve me in pretty good stead.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about some individual performances then, Sam. I think there's actually a lot to get through here. We've got Rory and Justin Thomas's poor performances, Brooks Koepka falling off, DJ having a poor Sunday. We've got Tony Fenow. We've got the performance of Sam Burns, and of course the winner Max Homa. So there's a lot to digest here. Let's get straight to the thick of it, which I think the main talking point is Tony Fenow, right? The guy shoots 64 on a Sunday to get into a playoff, which he then loses. Incredible 64, made a ton of putts. Playoffs can go like that. He missed that. He was always going to find it hard getting up and down from the amount of sand he gave himself to get over on the was it the 14th they played the par 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I don't really blame the playoff for it. And I don't blame his Sunday performance. He had too much to catch up on. Now, it's a bit sort of an oxymoron here because Tony's Sunday performances have generally been what's let him down. And he put in a great Sunday performance, but he had no pressure. He was miles off the pace, and he had to shoot a 64 to even get there. So Tony's mistakes this week didn't come on the Sunday. It wasn't about the playoff. It's the fact that he gave himself so much room. He gave himself too much to do, essentially. Having said that, if he had a better 54-hole score, would he have played as well on the Sunday? this is it with Tony Fenow. Encouraging yet again that he's knocking on the door and it's not affecting his confidence that way. My view on the situation is that a win will come. I think he's an elite player. He's top 10 in strokes gained overall. I think he's 6th, and he's 82nd strokes gained putting. Quite clear to see what the issue is on the Sunday. But he played very good golf, and I'm struggling not to see him getting a win this year. And I honestly think that win might come at the Masters at Augusta. More about that later. What were your thoughts? What do you think? Tony Finau's performance and inability to win on this occasion.
It's hard because I agree with you. I mean, for sure, like he played very well on Sunday. Shot 64, which is a great score. Somebody said, I forget where I read this, but somebody said something to the effect of the worst thing that could have happened to Tony Finau was Max Homa missing that putt at 18. That, like even if he had finished second by a shot, the narrative if he had done that would have been, if Homa had made that putt, the narrative would have been, hey, Tony Finau did everything he possibly could to give himself a chance to win that golf tournament. Somebody played better. It happened. Yeah. But then when he gets himself into the playoff, I think there's a fair amount you can critique there. I think he had Homa by the balls on 10.
Yeah,
in my view.
Homa was against that tree, man. He pulled off an incredible shot. To be fair to Homa, like that chip was seriously
really,
good.
Really impressive. I mean, I was texting my buddy like during the playoff, and at first when they showed it from a couple of different camera angles, but not until the last one did you realize he had a chance. Like the first couple camera angles, it looked like
it dead. It was
no way you could get at the back. How do you even get at the back of the ball? I was talking to my buddy about like he should bank it off the fucking tree, And so then when they showed it, but then they showed the angle when he set up, and you realized, okay, from the side, he's got a play here. Like this is not as bad as it looked. And so, but I mean, he hit an incredible shot from there to give himself a chance. But Finau, the bottom line is if Finau can get that ball up and in, he makes 3 and wins. If he can make that 8 footer, which I'll grant you is about the hardest 8 footer on the golf course, is that front hole location on 10, that downhill left to right putt. It is so brutally hard.
He made it in regulation though, didn't he? He made that same putt in regulation.
Yeah. And it's such a hard putt, and I think you could understand how he wouldn't make that, but still, he's pin high left, and he drove it in the best place, pretty much the best place you could drive it, and gave himself every opportunity to grab the thing by the horns and didn't do it, and then 14 in the playoff. 14, I think, played as the 3rd hardest hole on Sunday. And I'm at a loss for why. That green, you have 50 yards to the right.
Of the pin, yeah. I don't know why they're taking on the pin. Even I know Max Homa probably pulled his shot, but you see Tony Finau in the fucking bunker. You aim right, like right. Just stick on the middle of the green.
Especially going first. It's one thing if the other guy knocks it in there tight and you're like, all right, I gotta do something here. But I mean, there's a big ridge that runs through the middle of the 14th green that runs through the middle and diagonally. So any ball hit with a draw that lands in the middle, front third middle, with the greens the way they were, is going to take a hard kick to the left, and it's going to end up pretty close. It's going to end up like 15 feet at the worst, probably. And so, to my mind, like, you ask somebody like a Tiger, what are they doing in that moment? Their attitude's going to be, I'm hitting the middle of the fucking green, and I'm making the other guy a great shot to beat me. And even if he does hit a great shot, I'm still going to have a putt to tie. I'm not going to hand it to him. Yeah. And he ended up giving. I agree with you that Homa for sure pulled his shot too. But Homa, in pulling a shot, I guarantee you his line after he saw Fenow hit it in the bunker was 15, 20, 30 feet right of what his line otherwise would have been. And so it gave him the margin of error that he could pull it by however much he did and still not be in the bunker, because Fenow was already in there, and so he could take his line further out to the right. And so in the playoff, in the part of it where he needed to, where it was time to stick the knife in, Fenow couldn't do it, didn't do it, and did not force the other guy to hit a great shot to beat him. Homa hit a great shot. That chip on 10 was a great shot, but it's not like he didn't make him birdie either of the playoff balls. Like you would like, if you're going to say, hey, fair play, the guy played better than me and won in the playoff, you got to make him make a birdie to beat you, And so I do agree with your view that it seemed like Tony Finau was the worst player he was that day on the two holes that mattered the most, and that, you the more you do that, the more it's going to start stacking one on top of the other, and you're going to keep struggling to close out tournaments. But I mean, the guy's finished second, 3 times in a row. He finished second at the South.
Yeah, the Saudi as well, yeah.
I mean, the poor bastard, like these last 4 weeks, he's finished fourth, second.
Well, he's anything but poor, Sam.
Yeah.
he's racking those. What he's losing in W's, he's making up for in dollars earned.
No, that's true, but I just think I suspect it's going to be one of those things where when he wins, that releases that stress that he feels in those moments now, and he starts winning a fair amount, and then gets it kind of in the rear view. Like I think Spieth had some, Spieth and Rory too. I mean, like, Rory had that epic collapse at Augusta,
yeah,
and although you could argue that's still in there, or something, or at least a general feeling for him that he's not a great closer. You could argue that's still in there. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is the kind of thing where he wins once and it's gone, or if it's the kind of thing where the scar tissue starts building up so much that you just don't trust yourself in those moments,
Yeah, it's a tough one to gauge, but I do think the law of averages plays out over time. If you just look at his stats as a golfer, like those stats equal wins at some point. I'm not worried at all about him not getting that W. It's at what point does it become what could have been? And, right now, if he changes fortunes around this year, next year, and starts getting to wins together, then you can just argue those first 5 years, well, from 16 to 20 or 21, just being those formative years of progression and learning how to win. But, if it goes on any longer, it gets to that awkward phase of, what could have been, and is there something missing, etc. But I'm positive about Tony Finau. I think he handled himself very well at the interview. He's so graceful. You can't help but really like the guy. And I think you got to give credit to Max Homer as well. LA kid, big Lakers, big Dodgers fan, wins in his home home city on a course that he grew up going to that event. I thought he came across very well in the press. Tee to green, he was flawless, to be fair to the guy. I've criticised him actually on this podcast for being a bit of a hype train, but he's racked up wins at Quail Hollow and now Riviera. They're two tough golf courses that he's got the wins on. So that just goes to show the quality of golfer he is. He's a really likable guy. I hope to continue to see him up there. And it's a guy who is sneaking onto that Ryder Cup radar. You look at the US team USA have got a wealth of young talent in and around that team. I'm not sure if he'll be in there points wise, but if he keeps up his run of form, he played well the last couple of weeks. He's gonna be in Stricker's mind. And for what it's worth, Sam Burns has put 3 good weeks together. Didn't get the win. Didn't get what he would have wanted. Folded a little bit on that back nine, but all in all, he played some very good golf as well. At 24, I didn't realize he was so young as well. 24. So Team USA looking good this year, Sam.
Yeah, I think too that Stricker gave himself a lot of options because he's got the 6 picks.
6
right?
picks? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so only 6 guys are automatically qualifying right now. That's DJ. I think that's pretty much a lock. DeChambeau, that's probably a lock. Koepka, probably a lock. Schauffele, probably. Then the next 2 guys are Thomas and Finau. Now on the outside looking in is Morikawa, Reed, Berger, Simpson, Cantlay, English, Wolf, Homa.
Your biggest sort of question going into this Ryder Cup is how many rookies do we want on the team?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And your biggest question, I think, is how many veterans are we willing to chuck aside? I think you guys are looking at
Lee Westwood.
Not enough spots for too many guys that have been like stalwart guys for you. Like, is Sergio getting a pick?
Yeah, I don't know. But then you flip on its head. Lee Westwood's currently qualifying. He didn't make the last Ryder Cup. And I think as well we had didn't we have a record amount of rookies in the last Ryder Cup in France? Yeah, I guess it was a home course advantage, and playing in the US, favourable to your conditions is going to be a big challenge. But you're right. I think this year might be a year that we see a lot of different names in Team Europe. There's been a sort of a strong contingent of a core group of players. The last 4 or 5 Ryder Cups, we might see a change there. But likes of Westwood are still hanging around there. Ian Poulter always tends to bring out his form. It wouldn't surprise me if he got a pick anyway. He wasn't playing well. He was playing terribly en route to Glen Eagles, and played very well at Glen Eagles. So we'll see.
Right now, if it were to end now, on the European points list, Hatton, Fleetwood, Rahm, and McIlroy would make it. On the world points list, Victor Perez, Paul Casey, Fitz, Hovland, and Danny Willett, that's a surprise, would make it. So the guys you're looking at being on the outside, Westwood, Rose, Garcia, McDowell, Stenson, Lowry. I mean, Molinari's out.
But he's playing his way back into some form. It would not surprise. I think he had a good Sunday, didn't he? Finish tied 5th in the end this week. He's putting some good weeks together, and he's just joined Riviera, hasn't he? He's a member now.
Yeah, and that was like his 3rd top 10 in.
He's creeping.
Yeah, he's definitely shown some. He's given you reason to believe that the form is maybe starting to come back a little bit. I think I'm not surprised he ended up having a good week when the golf course was playing as tough as it was, and he has kind of that experience around the golf course that he did.
Yeah.
He had kind of shown enough form. John Rahm backdoor to top 5. He was like not really a factor the whole week, but he played. I think he shot 66 on Sunday, and that jumped him up into a top 5 finish.
Yeah.
DJ was a surprise.
He had a little left miss going on, didn't he?
Yeah. And that goes to show you out there, like, that driving the golf ball is extremely important. And when he stopped doing that well, the golf course wouldn't let him back into the game. And he putted poorly too, especially early on in that round.
I'll say it again. Like I really hope the governing bodies look at look at this, look at the waste management, and just think, we can pick courses that aren't too long, that are well protected, that bring out a different side of golf, and and I guess bring the shorter hitters into play. We predicted a good week for Matt Fitzpatrick, and it's exactly what we got. That 3 under on the Saturday was the best round of golf, I think, period, in the whole tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the golf course played so hard. I was, speaking of golf course setup, I thought Sunday was a little. I think that Saturday got so baked out fast and hard and difficult that Sunday you saw a lot of water on the greens, that they didn't roll them, they didn't cut them twice. I wish sometimes they wouldn't try to manage. There's such a fear among the Tour and the USGA and the PGA of going too far.
Ever since Shinnecock, they've shit themselves every time it comes to green speeds.
I think it goes even further back than that. I think it goes back to like Olympic Club. That when the USGA saw, remember that whole location at Olympic Club in 98 where Payne Stewart had like an 8-foot birdie putt that turned into it was like a right to left 8-foot birdie putt. He was the leader, 18th hole Saturday, going into Sunday. And it's like an 8-foot curler that curls and it just doesn't stop. And it ends
I
up
haven't seen that.
Oh my God, it ends up 30 feet below the hole. And from 8 feet, and it wasn't it wasn't 30. It wasn't 30 feet by. It was 30 feet to the left. The pitch of the green was so sideways that it was no matter what he did, the minute the ball started moving, it would start breaking down the hill. Ridiculous. And so I think ever since then, that was kind of an egg on the face moment. And I think ever since then, the USGA has been afraid of those moments. And I think the PGA Tour is too. They don't want to make their perception, especially when their whole motto is these guys are good, to say, hey, these guys are not always good, or they're not good enough for this, that's kind of anathemas to what they're trying to project as far as the skill level of these guys. And I just think I think they underestimate how much we, the fan, like seeing hard golf courses. You know, I know there's that like love affair with the idea that fans can't get enough birdies. And I just think it's one of the biggest misconceptions held by the higher ups at the tour and others that we may like birdies, but we like it when you have to earn them. You know,
that's what separates. When you know it's a birdie on a fucking hard golf course, then it's like, this guy's coming to play. Like, it just separates the field a little bit when you make the birdies that hard to get, because there'll always be players in the field that go on birdie runs on any golf course in the world. They're that good. We don't necessarily need to see a birdie fest from fucking tied 37th.
And I think to the point you just made exactly about in terms of it polarizing the results of good and bad. That, instead of a Rory being able to play the way he played on Thursday and Friday and shoot around even and maybe make the cut, that the golf course beat him up, and Bryson DeChambeau didn't drive the ball well on Thursday. It beat him up. And that was, he played pretty well on Friday and shot 69, but the damage was already done. I think it's good to polarize. Like, I think Phil Mickelson said it this way, and I liked it, that he doesn't like pars. He likes birdies and bogeys. He thinks that the easy holes should be easy, the hard holes should be hard. You want to see a lot of birdies and a lot of bogeys, and that'll help separate the good from the bad. That the guy who can execute can score, the guy who can't. And so I think Riviera proved itself to be a worthy host venue, and I would love to see a major championship come there, though. There's been talks of that my entire life.
Yeah, I think they said their initial focus is on the Olympics. Coming back is the Olympics going back to LA soon?
Yeah, I want to say the next Summer Games, I think.
Yeah, like 2025.
Yes.
So
now
I think Riv's the host course for that, the venue for the Olympics. I think then after that you got to be looking at, like, I hope they have a major. They have a major. I don't know what the space around the property's like. Obviously, I've never been. You're a better judge on that. That's usually the factor that that inhibits these courses from getting major championship status. Is how practical is it to to house people? How practical is it to get all the tour vans in, fans, blah blah blah. So I can't comment on that. But from a golf course perspective, fucking sign me up.
Yeah, that is a difficulty with Riviera for sure. Is it's not a huge piece of property. There's not a ton of room for a lot of the ancillary things that come with a major championship. Parking situation's a mess. Like, you can't park really on site. Like, you can't, at least for like public, you can there's enough room for the players, and that's pretty much it. So you have to park cars at the school that's like 5 minutes away.
Shuttle buses, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and then it's also a pretty wealthy neighborhood too. So like, the whole neighborhood like hates the idea of like people parking on their streets and like they have to.
Fucking hell, come on.
Yeah, seriously, and and obviously like the traffic's a disaster. There's really only one.
It is anyway.
It is. I agree with you. It is anyway, but because it is anyway, it's a nightmare if something like that's in town. So like, it's. I just don't know. I just don't know if it has the capacity to hold the numbers that a major championship would require. But I mean, you know what? That didn't stop the USGA from going to Merion. Like the USGA went to Merion, understood. I mean, they had like the men's locker room was in the backyard of someone's fucking house, and like
they can get it done. They can get creative.
Yeah, they limited the attendance to like 25,000 people instead of the usual 35, and they did what they had to do. I think I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anyone's taking this lesson away but me. It could be just that this is my view. But one of the things that I've felt over the last year with the PGA Tour is that the fans are much less of an added value than I thought they were. Like at Augusta, yes, like the roars and the patrons, and that's a big part of that experience. The Open Championship, some of the big events, yeah. But there's something to like the quiet, the visually uncluttered, great sight lines, and like. I remember they cut to like on Saturday when they had the rain delay or the wind delay, they'd cut to showing the previous year's final round when there were fans. It was like one of the last, couple of weeks before this all happened. And I'm watching it and I'm hearing like mashed potatoes guy, and I'm watching like screaming pull to hit the gallery and get saved from going 30 yards further left. And I was thinking to myself as I was watching it, I'm not entirely sure that like on a regular basis that the fans are that much of a net positive to the experience.
Maybe not to the viewer at home, but certainly for the players. The players, I think, it's probably. I think they would all
totally
say that they prefer the fans, right? For the energy, they're playing in competitive environments. They've got to create the energy themselves, as opposed to feel the fans. But I do agree with you. I've come to get used to it and come to appreciate different parts of the coverage that I wouldn't have. I do love it when we see more people teed up off the, teed up provisionals because a fan hasn't found the ball. There's more lost balls. There's more clear sight lines of the course, like you say. So I hear what you're saying, but given the choice, I'd pick fans. Two things to cover before we head into this week's big event, of course, the workday. Number one, Tiger Woods. Was he high or was he not high?
That was my 12 seconds into him talking.
He was high as a motherfucker. He was so high.
I was thinking, it kind of sounds like he's back on the painkillers again. And I don't know what that is. I mean, he just had surgery. He obviously has had a painkiller problem in the past. When you have surgery and you have as much pain as he has, you would think that they give him something, but you would also think of somebody who had a problem with painkillers that he would do well to stay away from those. I don't know if he had an
kind of weed seems like the sensible solution. I've got no problem with him doing weed. That's fucking fine. And I think we saw him on CBD gum at the Masters that he won. So he's quite clearly a fan of that style of product. And he just fucking looked high, man. Like he just looked high as shit. And he told me his answers were a little bit hazy as well. Like I know he's quite good at deflecting a lot of the time, but there was even a little bit more haze to the way he was talking. He had the sort of the stoner eyes on. And then I think
he had the stoner eyes on, and he had like the slow, drowsy.
Yeah, man, he was so stoned.
Not sharp voice,
Yeah, just a bit. And then the weird thing is, he was like, "Yeah, I haven't picked up a club. I've lengthened my putter to my sound wedge. That's about it." And then the next day, he gets photographed at Rolling Hills Country Club with David Spade filming something with Golf Digest, and he was out on the course with his bag on the buggy. So, I mean.
Yeah, and he said after
he was
the
hitting
surgery,
balls. An eyewitness account. Someone hitting balls on the range at Rolling Hills.
I'm pretty sure he said like a week after the surgery, he was bragging about how he was hitting balls.
He was just fucking. I reckon he was just high and just didn't know what to fucking say, mate. I think he just fucked up. I think he probably either took an edible or had some of a joint and just didn't really, just overdid it slightly. He had that look when he was presenting to Max Homer, like, "Holy fuck, I'm high and I don't know what to do." Like he had that look in his eye.
I didn't watch the trophy ceremony, so I didn't see that part. I just saw the interview, but that was my. It's funny you say that because I didn't give it another thought. I kind of thought maybe I just want that to be true, and but I'm glad I wasn't the only one that saw it. I thought that too, and it makes me feel like we're right if we both saw that.
I hope so because it just makes the GOAT even more GOAT if he's just smoking joints while he's injured. I love it. Last thing to cover before this week, Sam, is the small case of you winning this week's fantasy. But what I'm not very happy about is we drew on scores and, I came second. I want some explanation. Why the fuck did I come second? Why didn't I take home all the points?
I would have to look.
Is it done on what's it called? What's the official ruling when there's a draw in Fallings fantasy? You go back to the last birdie or something. Well,
no. When there's a tie, you know how you put in or you're talking about in the pick and pool, right?
Yeah, in the pick and pool. I'm guessing you're Samir.
So you're guessing that I'm what?
Samir K.
No. That's that's actually a different guy. That's a real guy.
You're joking?
I
thought it was like your alias. I thought you were Sam K and Samir K.
No. There's a Samir. There's a gentleman. I don't want to give out his last name, but Samir is our running away our most engaged fantasy player, and he's had a pretty good run on our. He's probably the best he's probably the best on our site.
We need to get,
he's
should we get
legitimate.
Samir? We need to get Samir on the show.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. We should definitely do that.
Let's get him on, Rich. We'll sort out after this. But I just want to, my performances haven't been too bad either. By the way, I've had two seconds in the first in the last 4 weeks, so I'm trending.
Yeah. So the difference was Samir on the tiebreaker. I'm looking it up now. On the tiebreaker, Samir had the winning score at 15 under. You had it at 17 under.
Ugh.
And so because the winning score ended up being, what was it, 12?
12 in the end, yeah.
His 15 is closer to the 12 that won.
I'm going to pay more attention to that thing next. I just chuck in a number between 15 and 24 usually, and it usually comes out right. But yeah, not Riviera.
It can be the difference. I actually finished. I don't know why I'm fist pumping. I finished dead last.
You're fist pumping. What?
No,
you won something this weekend.
I put in so many of these entries, and I very rarely go back and look to see how they did. I'm mostly doing it just to have extra entries in the field, and so I didn't know that I thought you might have been. I thought I might have won,
or a head to head that you didn't see maybe.
Right, or something like that, yeah. And so I was pumping my fist, thinking like, all right, I bagged one, and now I go back and look, and I finished dead fucking last. I took Rory, who missed the cut. I took Morikawa, who finished over par. I took Woodland, who missed the cut. Hovland was the only guy who played worth a damn. Kuchar played awful. And JB Holmes was bad too. I don't know where.
Oh man, well,
let's
try and write that wrong. Let's write that wrong, Sam. Take us into this week. Where are we playing? What's the event? And what's Group A looking like?
So the workday is an interesting change of pace for this tournament. Usually this is the one that's in Mexico City, that's played at altitude, that's played at, I'm never going to pronounce the name of the course, Club de Chapute.
That one.
Pate, I can't
one at
do
altitude,
it. Yeah. And so I think it's going to be a little, so now they moved it to Concession Golf Club in Bradenton, Florida, which is a Nicklaus design. It's got that classic Nicklaus quality of, he loves kind of the Augusta-y greens that have like sections within the greens. Kind of like, I don't know if you remember Dove Mountain, where they used to have the match play for all those years in Arizona. That there are a lot of slopes that if you get on the proper side of them are going to help you, and they're going to move the ball towards the hole. But if you get on the wrong side of them, they're going to repel it. Like you see it, 16 at Augusta, or, take your pick 7, etc. So I think it's definitely going to be a week that the sharp iron player is going to have an advantage. I mean, he pretty much always does, but I don't think driving the ball is going to be as important. It looks relatively wide open. As far as the quality of the field goes, it's a pretty good group. I think I read that it's something like 48 of the top 50 in the world are going to be in the field. The only 2 guys that are missing. Yeah, and I was saying this in our blog a little bit. You can say whatever you want about the World Golf Championships, but one thing they have done is they often, if you look at everybody's schedule, by and large, and grant you the China one is a little bit more, some people take that one off, but the other 3, if you look at the other 3, I mean, everybody's building their schedule. It's like, okay, well, the 4 majors, the players, the WGCs are pretty much next, And so I think if you're going to look back, it's been a little bit over 20 years now since they've had the World Golf Championships. If the mission of them was to bring more of the best around the world together more often, it seems to be working. I mean, Group A, take a look here.
Quick question before we go into picks, Sam. Have we got fans this week? What's the status? I imagine so. It's Florida. That's why we're celebrating. Surely there's got to be fans. Florida don't give a fuck, I didn't think, at the minute. I thought they were over the whole COVID thing.
I don't know the answer to that. I would expect there to be fans. Like they have them in the, they've started having fans in the hockey games and stuff in Florida. So I don't really see any reason why they wouldn't have them. But I'm not sure that they do. It could also be like the golf course didn't want it is another possibility.
Oh yeah, of course. Take us away, Sam.
Group A, Rory Mcilroy, Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Xander Schauffele, Jon Rahm. Koepka did not have a great week. Dustin Johnson looked a little unglued at the end. Rory didn't seem particularly sharp. Justin Thomas just seems a little bit distracted. I think Rahm is, I don't know, as a general policy, to just go DJ, you're going to end up happier about it than not most of the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Very pragmatic.
I think I'm going to go with DJ.
Yeah, not a bad shout. He looked a bit ropey on Sunday. Other than that, it was a good week for DJ, and he got himself nicely into position at one point. Let it go, but still played very well. I'm going to go low ownership this week, and I'm going to go a surprise low ownership pick. People aren't going to pick Rory Mcilroy for obvious reasons, missing the cut. But for me, I saw a good amount of frustration in him, and I think he's swinging the club really well. He's shortened his swing a little bit. He looks more control of it. I see, I'm not a swing expert by any stretch of the imagination, but his swing does look really good. It's a matter of time with Rory. Trust me on this. In big events, he turns up. For the fact it's low ownership, for the fact he rarely missed a cut, Sam. That's his first missed cut since the Open in 2019. I think he had the longest cut streak going. He's not going to miss this cut. And for me, he's going to contend to win this week. That's my pick.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to get a guy like Rory in a low ownership situation. I agree with that. And he played pretty well for the 2 weeks going into Riviera, so I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to view that as more of a blip on the radar than anything else. I could easily see that, he just kind of flips the week and moves on. Group B, Patrick Cantlay, Adam Scott, Tony Finau, Bryson DeChambeau, Hideki Matsuyama, Webb Simpson. Finau almost got himself into Group A, to be honest.
He's knocking on the door, isn't he?
Just how can you not? At the end of the day, the guy has finished second 3 times in a row, finished fourth the other time. His game is so good. I just don't see any need to get too fancy and overthink this one and talk myself into a bad choice here. So I think I'm going to go with Tony Finau. Yeah, but
I'm joining you, man. I'm joining you on that one. I see no reason to pick anyone else given the form. The win's coming. We're with you, Tony. Group C.
Daniel Berger, Colin Morikawa, Gary Woodland, Tommy Fleetwood, Patrick Reed, Jason Day.
This is fucking hard. This is a tough group.
Yeah, these are all guys you're used to seeing in Group B, except for maybe Daniel Berger. Morikawa has been really quiet since that PGA. I have not seen anything that's led me to think that he's worthy of a pick here. Fleetwood, I don't feel like has played a lot. It's possible I'm just missing all of his European Tour action.
Yeah,
you tell me.
He didn't play badly, and he obviously played in the desert swing and didn't do too badly at all.
Right. Patrick Reed is always the threat, but I'm not sure about the golf course fit here. It kind of seems like a golf course where you're going to have to go pretty low. I don't know if Patrick Reed is that guy. Jason Day is just too inconsistent, too much searching for it.
He looked okay at Pebble, didn't he?
Yeah.
In spots.
That's a golf course where short game will carry you a long way, though.
His putting stroke. He hasn't lost his putting stroke, that's for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Daniel Berger. He played so well at Pebble Beach. He took the week off last week. I see no reason to believe his game's not still there. He's not playing with a ton of pressure. He just won. I think he's not a bad call. I think I'm going to go with Berger.
Nice. Group D.
Who's your pick there?
Oh, sorry, it was Fleetwood.
Okay. Group D, Billy Horschel, Brendan Todd, Matt Kuchar, Bubba Watson, Matthew Wolff, Kevin Na. If everybody here plays well, I think Matthew Wolff wins. I think he's out of all these guys, almost everybody else except for maybe Brendan Todd seems like they're on the decline. and Matthew Wolf seems like he's getting better every year. Has Matthew Wolf played well? I haven't seen his name in a while.
No, he withdrew. He withdrew. His last performance, he withdrew in the first round of the Waste Management, I think.
Seems like a lot of golf course for Kevin Na. Kuchar hasn't been playing well.
Yeah, but you know Kevin Na's going to sneak a 21st, don't you?
Probably true. I'm going to go Matthew Wolf. It's a gamble, but I just see him as having the most upside in this group.
Yeah, he definitely has the most upside in that group. I agree with you that a lot of the best golf of these players are behind them. Having said that, we've talked about Kevin Na a lot in this podcast about being, quietly a very, very good player who puts in some amazing finishes, just doesn't necessarily get the camera time, or his style of play isn't such that gets him into contention early on. He sort of coasts a little bit to begin with and then makes a charge for the 20th spot. But that's not a bad pick in fantasy. Where I'm looking in this group, when I'm looking at groups D, E, and F, I'm like, rule number one, who's going to make the fucking cut? For me, I think Matthew Wolf's form's a little bit sporadic, as much as his upside's very good. So for that reason, I like the way I'm seeing this is the top three groups, A, B, and C. They're for me, they're my like contenders to win. Groups D, E, and F are about making the cut for me. So Kevin Na's my guy.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably a smart approach, especially in the back groups, and it's the kind of approach that has you winning these things and me finishing dead last. Group B, the old European Ryder Cup group. I'll ask two questions about this. A, who's your pick, and B, which of these guys will not be on the European Ryder Cup side? Lee Westwood, Matt Fitzpatrick, Sergio Garcia, Tyrrell Hatton, Shane Lowry, Justin Rose.
I mean, Tyrrell Hatton's...
Fitz played pretty...
Go on.
Yeah, I mean, your boy Fitz played pretty well last week. I felt like I missed the boat on that. Hatton's been arguably the best European player for a year.
Yeah, he's fifth in the world, Sam. That takes some doing.
No kidding.
He's underrated, massively underrated in America still.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Hatton. I think his game is as close to on form as anybody in this group, and I think he's just been so good over the last year that it's hard to say no. But my pick for who among these guys will not be on the Ryder Cup team, I don't think Justin Rose will be on the Ryder Cup team.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I'm not going to go as bullish and say Justin Rose is going to be out the team. I think Shane Lowry would be out the team sooner. Hasn't really.
All too.
I mean, the poor fucker got one thing I will criticize the PGA Tour for, or the coverage or whatever. They've given Shane Lowry no attention, no coverage, nothing. Another player, Tom Lewis, came over. I think finished 5th at Pebble Beach. He's top 50 in the world. He gets no mention, no coverage, nothing. So I think Shane Lowry is an underrated player. If you watch he was paired with Tiger on 3 of the rounds at Augusta, and you should have seen some of the short game shots he was hitting. The guy is an immensely talented golfer and doesn't get enough recognition. Having said that,
he can score. He
can
that
score.
To me is that is such a big thing. Like Patrick Reed is not a remarkable ball striker by any stretch of the imagination. He's not crazy long, but he can score. And I think Hatton has that thing, which I think really, if you want to be a guy that's going to outperform your potential as a player, being a guy who knows how to score will take you there. Yeah,
man, he's scrappy. He's a scrappy player. I'm gonna pick Hatton for that reason. I think he's underrated. I think his performances are very consistent. Had a great desert swing, but I was torn between him and Fitzpatrick, but Fitz, I feel like, gets lost out there sometimes on bigger golf courses in these sorts of fields. I think Riviera was kind of like he's more like a bespoke, tough golf course player that wins these cool events. Not necessarily a guy who's going to go out there and compete in the, when 24 under wins at a WGC. I just don't see him competing in this type of competition.
Yeah, I think he lacks the firepower a little bit to do that.
For sure. Last group.
Group F, Max Homa, Louis Oosthuizen. Have you ever seen the movie Dirty Rotten Scoundrels?
No.
There's a great character in that movie whose name is Dr. Emil Schaffhausen. And so me and my buddies, whenever I have to stop myself from saying on the podcast, me and my buddies, whenever we talk about Louis Oosthuizen, we always call him Dr. Emil. And so if you ever hear me slip into saying that, that's a reference to that movie. Oosthuizen, Joaquin Neiman, Abraham Ancer, Victor Hovland, Scotty Scheffler. Interesting mix of players here. I mean, like Oosthuizen kind of was like the which one of these is not like the rest of them. Homa obviously is playing great. I'm a little bit skeptical of like the post-win, such an emotional high. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, if he wasn't particularly involved in the top of the leaderboard this week. Oosthuizen is impossible to figure out. He's the guy who any given week can finish in the top 20. But like he just seems like sometimes he doesn't give a shit. Joaquin Neiman played okay, I think, last week. I feel like I saw a little bit of him. Abraham Ancer. Hovland's kind of cooled off. Scotty Scheffler, I think, played okay. God, I mean, I don't know in this one. I think I'm gonna go with my same theory that if all these guys play their best, I think Victor Hovland's best is in this group. So I think I'm gonna go with Hovland. I don't feel great about it.
No, I think Victor Hovland's a steal for a Group F candidate. He's so consistent.
Yeah.
He's so consistent. I don't expect him to miss the cut. Max Homer, I expect, will still be drunk after winning in his home city. Don't blame the guy. We often see it right. The week after a win's rarely a good one, especially for someone who's only won twice on tour. I'm going to go Victor Hovland. The consistency of the man is extremely impressive. I think he'll be looking at this WGC as a way to put his market down. You've got the likes of Matthew Wolff, who's contending in the US Open. You've got Morikawa, who's won the PGA Championship. I still think Victor Hovland's striving for something more substantial behind him.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
And then I'm going to go 20 under is my score.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad pick. If you listen to Paul Azinger, he says if the wind doesn't blow, he thinks it'll be in the 20s. If it does blow, it might be down in the low teens. Couple parlays to look at. Rory Mcilroy, -145. Justin Thomas, +110. Who do you like there?
I like Rory every day of the week, just with where Justin's game and head's at. Rory McIlroy didn't have a good week last week, but I think I still fancy Rory over Justin on most golf rounds. To be very frank, and obviously Justin's head's not there.
How high would that number have to be with Rory for you to switch? In other words, if Rory was -200 and Justin Thomas was +150. Would you switch?
That's a good point. I mean, probably -175, and I need a bit more out of Justin Thomas at maybe like +125 or something.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think we're going to end up on the same analysis with this one too. Dustin Johnson -155, Brooks Koepka +120.
See, now this is. See, if I would have thought again if we had the same odds for the last group. Fuck, this is a tough one. This is a good parlay. Shit.
Yeah, just a little bit, like the gap between these. I think the Rory odds probably could have been closer to these. Then these probably could have been a little bit more distant too. I mean, I don't know. You're giving up a lot of points on the payout, in terms of taking Dustin Johnson, and Koepka's obviously, especially at a golf course like this where I get the sense that scoring is going to be low, that it's going to reward the bombers. It's not going to punish poor driving that much. I get the impression that it's going to fit Koepka well. DJ drove the ball, started to come kind of unglued at the end of
DJ's not been putting well. Secretly, he's not been. I'm telling you now, Sam, he hasn't putted well since the last round of Saudi. People aren't talking about it. I think I
might take a flyer. I might.
I'm going Brooksy.
As you guys would say over there, I might be a bit of a chancer, but I'm going to take Koepka.
Yeah, I'm going
Chancer.
Brooks. Huh?
Chancer is like a Scottishism, isn't it?
I don't know if it's a Scottishism. It's you're a bit of a chancer. You take risks. No, I don't think it's Scottish. It's British. You guys say British. I don't know if it's not exclusive to Scotland though. I'm not sure where it came out of, but yeah, we use it a lot.
I like that term though, because I definitely can be a bit of a chancer. That's for sure.
Oh, this matchup 3 is a fucking good one. Shit, son.
John Rahm minus 125, Xander Schauffele minus 105. I mean, this is another one of those where if they both play well, John Rahm's going to win. But Xander Schauffele's B game, I think, is better than John Rahm's B game. So I don't know.
I get confused about American odds. Who's the favorite in this instance? Rahm.
John Rahm.
Yeah.
John Rahm's the favorite. You would have to bet 125 to win 100 on John Rahm, but you would only have to bet 105 to win 100 on Xander Schauffele.
Okay. Shit. I felt like I took my big risk with the Brooks pick. I'm gonna go back into the fact that John Rahm come off a great Sunday WGC event. He's another guy who's consistently puts in top 20 performances, but he's due a big win. He's due a few big wins. He's due like a 5-win season, for example. I really think John Rahm sort of got that in his sights, and I think John Rahm strikes me as a more motivated person. I know it's only one round of golf, but I'm picking John. I took my risk in the last matchup.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad choice. These odds are just a little bit close, and I think John Rahm's best is a little bit better than Schauffele's, and he played well enough on Sunday to merit a pick here. A lot of good other parlays, too. I mean, Cantlay, Fenow, Rory DJ is another option, DeChambeau, Schauffele. There's a lot of fun. I mean, because the field is good, there's a lot of really fun ones here. So I think, I would strongly encourage everybody to take a look at those.
Sam, pleasure once again, my man. What I would ask for everyone who got any value out of this podcast is to go ahead, like, share, subscribe, review, all that good shit, and get the word out there. Sam, thank you so much again, and I'll see you next week.
Pleasure, buddy. Have a good one.
Take it easy, man. Bye-bye.